Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is another group of 5 puzzles. All of them are endgame positions with white to play, and it's up to you to determine the best continuation in each case. So in this puzzle, puzzle 1, go ahead, pause the video, see if you can find the best continuation for white. Okay, the solution to puzzle 1 is bishop to d5, with its primary purpose to prevent this pawn from advancing. Allowing that pawn to advance would mean that this bishop can come back and essentially defend against this pawn's promotion. So bishop to d5 interferes with this idea. After pawn takes bishop g5, and this pawn cannot be stopped from queening. Similarly, if the black king tries to track it down after this bishop goes to d5, if the king tries to run after it, what eventually happens is that the pawn arrives on g7, f8 is controlled, f7 is controlled, and this pawn once again cannot be stopped from queening. So the key move in puzzle 1, the solution is going to be bishop to d5. So moving on to puzzle 2, once again white to play. Go ahead, pause the video, see if you can find the best continuation for white. Okay, the solution to this one is bishop to h6. Not even caring about the queen because mate on f8 is coming and there's no successful way to defend against that. It may have been very tempting to just want to first react to the rook takes queen threat by coming down to c8, but the most direct move and the best continuation here is bishop to h6. With this mate threat, there isn't really a good defense at all. If, let's say, the rook were to play back to defend, we would just have pawn takes queen, and mate is just around the corner from here. So the key move in this one is bishop to h6. That would be the solution to puzzle 2. Moving on to the third one, we have, once again, white to play. Pause the video, see if you can find the best continuation for white. Okay, the solution to this one is to actually take into account that white doesn't even have to react to this pawn's advancement because there's a mating net right around the corner, starting first with just king takes pawn, and there's a mate in 3 coming about. For example, if the pawn advances, it's all forcing moves. Knight g5, king takes pawn, rook f7, king in the corner, rook h7, and that's mate. Personally, I was very tempted when I first saw this position to just grab the rook and then grab this pawn, get my king to that g6 square, and then try to get my knight to f6. But unfortunately, it comes one move too late. Of course, if it was white's move, it'd be mate, but certainly in this position, it turned out to be black's move. So really the key move, the solution to this one is to just grab this pawn. The threat of knight g5, rook f7 to h7 is there's no way out of that one. So moving on to the fourth one, once again white to play. Pause the video, see if you can find the best continuation for white. Okay, solution to this one is queen to a8. Its primary purpose is to try and take over control of black's back rank. Clears this rook away from the queening square. After c8, another forcing move, we have rook takes queen, rook takes rook, and the only good block here in this case is knight to f8, which now runs into rook takes knight. And in the event of king takes rook, we have knight d7, finishing up very nicely with a fork, winning the queen and the resulting endgame. However, the variation is not finished yet because the black king does not have to take the rook. It can instead play to that h7 square, and that's where this h4 pawn plays a role, starting first with h5, with the idea of watching over g6 so the knight can pivot there. Once the knight is there, it's guarding h8, which would allow the rook to play to h8 to deliver checkmate. There's no successful way to defend. If the queen just grabs the pawn, knight g6, and you'll note that there's not even a fear of the queen giving perpetual check to the white king because this rook conveniently watches over f2. And so mate is right around the corner here on that h8 square. There is one other possibility, the queen from this position, or from the position here for black. We don't need to do this queen takes pawn move, but instead there is better resistance in the way of the pawn advancing to, let's say, that g5 square, essentially just clearing that g7 square for the black king to go to. And after that move, we could have pawn takes pawn en passant, and king to g7, the only move, rook f7, and whether or not the king goes to g8 or h8, it doesn't matter. The knight will be making use of this key square g4, For example, king g8 would allow knight to g4 with the threat of knight to f6, and you would actually have your pick of what kind of mate you would want to do from that position. For example, knight f6, as soon as the king moves, you could play rook to h7, which would be mate, or maybe even nicer, pawn to g6, or excuse me, g7, and that would also be mate. One other slight variation is that after this position right here, after the rook gives check on f7, the king doesn't have to go to g8, but instead h8. Again, the knight plays to g4, queen takes pawn, and now we have this sequence of moves. Rook check, king g8, knight check, king f8, so the king is just getting walked all the way to this e8 square. Rook f7 check, king e8, and after pawn to g7, this pawn will not be denied that g8 square to promote to a queen. And once again, note that the rook is conveniently keeping a close eye on that f7 square so that there is no black queen getting out of hand and checking the white queen around. So certainly a lengthy variation is this puzzle number 4, but that was the solution to that one. Moving on to the final one. Once again, white to move. Pause the video, see if you can find the best continuation for white. Okay, the key move, the first move is rook to h4, and black has two options. If pawn takes rook, we just have a mate in one, queen to g6, and that's mate. If instead king takes rook, that'll now run into essentially the queen really making good use of the whole chessboard, starting first with queen h7. If the king goes to g4, this will run into a very quick mate on h3. But instead, if we have the queen blocking, now we have all forcing moves. Pawn takes pawn check, king g4, queen d7 check, rook has to block, queen d1 check, rook has to block again, and after queen takes rook, that's mate. So that's all for this video. Be sure to let me know how you did on all 5 of these puzzles. That's all for now. Take care.